Alrighty, we're going to be doing a comparison of 4 different popular muzzle devices that are currently available as of the date of the creation of this video. The target audience of today's video is going to be individuals looking to upgrade their current AK muzzle device to something more high performing, with the intent of never suppressing, as none of these muzzle devices are suppressor compatible. We'll be testing the FSC47 Mod 2 or Gen 2, the SLR SYNERGY 30 cal, the one with the small holes all over it and prongs on the end, the VG6 EPSILON AK, and lastly the Jmac RRD 4C Slim. Most of these muzzle devices are classified and advertised as compensators, muzzle brakes, flash comps, and hybrid devices, although despite their classification, some perform better in all attributes than others. So I wouldn't put much stock into its classification. The host weapon system is going to be a full-size Romanian Draco pistol. I wanted to use a shorter barreled weapon as to better exaggerate and showcase each device's attributes. As with a shorter barrel, you get less powder burn, therefore more flash and concussion. With a longer AKM 16-inch barrel or longer, you're going to get less flash and concussion, and the attributes still apply, but are going to be less noticeable. The ammo we're going to be using is going to be Tula 122 grain FMJs out of Russia. I wanted to make sure I used a import ammo, as it's pretty much the standard and produces a little more flash, as the powders are faster burning and less refined. If you wanted to mitigate extra flash, you could use a domestically made ammo like Hornady or something like that. That's just a variable you've got to consider when it comes to flash. Each device is going to be tested in the categories of recoil reduction, muzzle rise reduction, flash reduction, and concussion reduction. They'll be graded on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being poor performing and 10 being good performing. I'm going to be shooting from a fairly upright, neutral position as to better display the effects of recoil and muzzle rise. I'll be shooting in both daylight and in darkness as well. Alrighty, for the night shoot portion, we're only going to be recording the flash performance, as we've already observed and recorded the other characteristics.
VG6 EPSILON.
Starting off with the PWS Mod 2, this being the second generation and the only one available now. Unfortunately, the Mod 1 was a better performer, I think, in most people's eyes, if you do a little research on it, as it had an open tines like a three-prong flash hider, and it tended to hold on to less unspent gunpowder. This Mod 2 tends to build up a little more with the closed in and kind of intermittently ignite, and its flash pattern's kind of like a little bit of a small ball, like a small fireball, or even kind of like a cartoony comic book explosion at the end. But it's not horrible. It's obviously much better than having no muzzle device. But as far as recoil goes and muzzle rise, it does help with muzzle rise to a noticeable degree, but not a whole lot compared to all the other ones we've tested. The recoil reduction is noticeable as well. The concussion isn't horrible, as some of the full brakes that have full open ports. So it's a fairly good medium. In my opinion, it's the poorest performer out of all these as far as working as a compensator. It kind of is just mediocre at everything. But that's my final thoughts on that one. Moving on to the Jmac RD4C Slim. This one ended up being my favorite across all categories and the best performing in almost all categories. So the original RD4C had a pine cone-like large appearance and footprint to it. I find that the slim version is every bit as effective. Just from my own thoughts and testing on it, it just feels every bit as effective. I can't see a difference if there is, but it has that smaller, lighter footprint, and is just more aesthetic looking than its bigger brother. But you can see the muzzle rise is significantly reduced, as well as the recoil, which allows you to run the gun really fast and stay on target. Definitely effective. The flash reduction is very significant. The flash almost gets diffused into kind of a sparking, which is definitely ideal at nighttime. It's going to be harder to spot that signature at distance. So I would say that the RD4C Slim is my favorite and the most effective at most categories. Aside, it's a little concussive, but that's to be expected with something that reduces recoil this much. So if you can deal with the concussion, it's a great one to pin and weld or something like that could do everything really well, if you don't mind the concussion. And as you get a longer barrel, where there's a 14.5, 12.5, 16, that concussion's going to improve a little bit, and the flash as well, which is pretty minimal to begin with. The SLR Synergy, I found this one to be one of the most surprising in its performance. There's not a whole lot of information or advertisement videos out there about this one, so it's a little more lesser known. But I found it to work surprisingly well. The muzzle rise and the recoil were noticeably reduced. The flash was on par with the PWS, so it did a pretty good job at reducing flash. And then what really stood out was the concussion reduction. It performed well in all categories. Not super exceedingly well, but like a good do-it-all device for sure. And it comes with a pre-drilled hole for a pin and weld. And if you're somebody who wanted to have a less concussive device, because that has the small holes in it, similar to like an American Defense EFAB or AFAB, but in the 14x1 AK thread pitch, this would be a great kind of do-it-all if you never wanted to suppress the rifle. this would do it all pretty well. That would probably be one of my top recommendations for this, because you're just it's not gonna rattle your teeth or be super blasty and annoying, but it's also gonna provide you with all the benefits over a traditional, like, sugar scoop, AK device, or an A2 flash hider. It's gonna blow those out of the water as far as that goes, and will help you achieve that pin and weld length. So yeah, definitely one of the most impressive. I would put it over the PWS. And lastly, we have the VG6 EPSILON. My first experience with these was on a 5.56 AR, and it pretty much turned it into a 22. They shoot incredibly flat. I would say, though, it's on par with recoil and muzzle rise with the RRD4C Slim. I can't tell a difference side by side. They both do a great job. The main difference being that the VG6 is a good bit more concussive and a lot more flashy. It was the poorest performer in flash, which is to be expected. I mean, you got two large ports and holes in the top like that. It's gonna be maybe slightly flatter than the RRD. I can barely notice it if it is. Um, but the flash is pretty much a flash grenade at that point. You saw how flashy it was at night. It kind of just, it's like having your photo taken with an old timey uh, camera. So it very flashy, great for people who do like competitions and stuff where you don't really need to hide your flash or anything like that. Still not going to be as effective at reducing recoil as something like an unrivaled break. On a scale of 1 to 10, I did that as 1 being, something like an unrivaled break as far as flash goes, and 10 being like a 3-prong flash hider, or Bulgarian 4-piece flash hider that gets rid of virtually all of it. So it's a good competition break, or if you wanted to put it on a longer gun. I have a buddy who has it on a Wasser 16-inch barrel, and it is not nearly as flashy on that. So I would not recommend this on a shorter barrel like a Draco, especially not on anything shorter than that. And like I said, unless you want a flashbang in front of you and to blind yourself. But still a great device, just not good at doing the hybrid thing. They make the cage device for them and all that goes around it, but I don't think it does a whole lot, and it's pretty pricey for what it is. So yeah, this is a great break for a longer barrel, or someone just looking to do competition and keep the gun as flat as possible. But I really think the RD4C does everything it can do, but with the added benefit of better flash and less concussion. So hopefully this was helpful. I wasn't sponsored or given any of these devices. I paid for them with my own money. I kind of have an obsession with testing different devices to figure out what I like, and organically that requires you to buy them. So my opinion is very unbiased. I just have tested these on and off for years and wanted to compile a video. That way it could help maybe save you some money. So I think, like I said, the RRD4C I think is the best if you want across all boards to get the most recoil reduction and flattest shooting gun while still being a good option for Draco, 11.5 to 12.5 pistols, all the way up to, RPK length if you wanted. I think it does the best at everything and would still be a good pin and weld device. The other ones did a great job, but I got to say the RD4C definitely takes the cake. If you don't mind the concussion. If you do mind the concussion, the SLR is a great one to settle with. So it comes down to what you're looking to achieve, and all these are going to be a huge upgrade over something like a traditional slant brake or no muzzle device. Like if you had a welded muzzle nut or something, it's going to feel like a completely different weapon to you. And again, this is for the person not looking to suppress. There's so many mounting options and muzzle device options for suppressors nowadays. This is for the person that just wants a really good fighting rifle device that can pretty much achieve everything and increase your performance and give you a pretty large edge, especially when you account for these devices like eliminating, in my opinion, like 50% or more recoil. That's a pretty big deal. You can stay on target a lot easier, and it just makes shooting 7.62 feel more like 5.56 essentially. But if you can have something that can do that plus deliver flash hiding capabilities, that's a pretty big deal.